Welcome back to My Art Pixie. I'm Maria, and today I've got 5 spring-inspired art ideas to help you shake off those winter blues and dive into your creativity. Let's kick off with idea number 1, floral watercolor studies. Nothing says spring like a fresh bundle of flowers. I had so much fun putting these 3 bundles together in these different pitchers. I love watering jars and pitchers, and so I have several of them around. So you can do what I've done here and put them into 3 different bundles and then try painting them. So what I did was I got out my watercolor sketchbook and I just used this time to practice. So that's what's great about the floral watercolor studies is that it is just that. It is a study. It does not have to be perfect. You are just working with your watercolor and your brush and the different pressures that you apply to the brush and just seeing what you can come up with. You can try painting tulips and daffodils and even cherry blossoms. Whatever you find at your local florist or grocery store will work just fine. A watercolor sketchbook is a great place to practice. It's a safe place to practice. You can do those loose brush strokes and experiment with the limited pastel palette, and you may even surprise yourself. idea number 2. Work on a junk journal spread. So after practicing my paint techniques in my watercolor journal, I switched over to my junk journal and I took what I learned and applied it to a spread within the junk journal. And it's the same thing, working on those fun watercolor techniques, but within your junk journal. And I don't know about you, but I love to take an old book page and paint on top of that as well. Idea number 3, birds and butterflies. Spring is all about new life, and so you can sketch and paint the birds and butterflies and place them within your junk journals, creating your own ephemera and adding some whimsy and fun. So I like making my own watercolor ephemera, and it's really easy to do. Take a large piece of watercolor paper and paint some whimsical birds and butterflies. Here I am doing a wet on wet technique. The first set of birds are going to be very whimsical. So you just take some water and you make a circle with your paintbrush, and then you add the watercolor to it, the wet watercolor to it. So that's why it's called wet on wet. And what it does is it spreads throughout where you have applied that circle of water. And all I'm doing is dropping the color into the circle. And as you can see, it kind of bleeds and spreads and does its own thing, but it stays within that water circle. You can go outside of the circle with your brush and create some feathers. Remember, it does not have to be perfect. As a matter of fact, the more whimsy and fun, the better. Next, I'm going to create a bird on a branch. This is with wet on dry. I'm filling my brush with water and pigment and going directly onto the watercolor paper. This bird is going to be more realistic as well. I'm using 3 different colors. I'm starting with the top of the bird from the head all the way down to the tail, and then I will start on the belly of the bird. You can see that it will start to take shape. While that dries, I'm going to paint in a branch just using the same colors, and then I'm going to go in with a green paint color and paint in some leaves. And then butterflies. So butterflies used to intimidate me. I used to think, oh, I cannot paint them very well, and I have just learned to breathe and relax. You can use a micron pen to help you get started by drawing the base of the butterfly, and then it's literally 4 wings. You've got the top 2, the bottom 2 wings. I make them a little bit larger, but also, don't take yourself too seriously. Just to get that watercolor down, and you're making teardrop shapes. So if you've ever thought about it before, the butterfly wings are like teardrop shapes, and you need 4 of them. Just that simple. And then I like to go back in with my micron pen once everything is dry and draw in little details. This is the moment that they come alive. Sketching to create interest and details adds a lot to these watercolor ephemera. So adding beaks, eyes, feathers, anything that you want to add to pop out those details. Even some leaves on the branch make a world of difference for your watercolor ephemera. From a realistic bird on a branch to whimsical birds with long legs and curly feathers and simple features. I can really get lost in the fun of it and just play. For the butterflies, it's a body and any details that you would want to include on the wings. And it's okay if you go outside of the watercolor shape. So as you can see, one of the butterflies is right on the line of the watercolor shape, and the other one I've gone outside of the watercolor shape. So it's really up to you. Once that's done, I will fussy cut everything out and I will add it to my junk journal. This is my favorite part. So you can paint and draw several of these and just keep them on hand, or cut them out and add them to your junk journal straight away. So I'm going to add a few into my warm palette watercolor junk journal and then a few into my cool palette watercolor junk journal. And have fun with this. So with one of the butterflies, I'm sure you noticed, I cut it out and I left some of the watercolor paper attached, and this was so I could stick it into the pocket. They look so cute in a pocket. With the other one, I wanted to put a doily behind it. I have several doilies that I have picked up at antique shops, and they work perfect in a junk journal. And I'm just gluing one down onto the doily. Super simple. I'm sure you can do it too. In my cool palette watercolor junk journal, I will add the bird on the branch. I'm simply adding it with a piece of washi tape. It's so easy, but it really adds to the overall look and feel of this page. And then one more. I have a clear pocket in the back here that I know I want to pop this whimsical bird in. The legs are so long and it's just perfect to pop them in, but I don't want to stick it in a pocket and then not be able to enjoy the whimsy of the really long legs. So I'm going to stick it in this clear pocket and it is just perfect. I can still enjoy the long legs. So these cute ephemera just really help add a lot of magic to your pages, and knowing that you've created them yourself, you really don't have to spend any money on ephemera. You can just make your own. Idea number 4, nature, pattern, play. So this might seem a little intimidating at first, but honestly, just take a deep breath and relax. It is a lot of fun. You can use a pencil to sketch out some things beforehand, but I recommend grabbing your sketchbook. So grab your drawing sketchbook and a micron pen and practice some of the nature-inspired pieces that you want to put into your pattern. So I have worked on some flowers and some leaves ahead of time and just tried to figure out what I want to do before I put them onto my paper. Practicing helps build confidence for when you add the drawings to your watercolor paper. So the watercolor paper feels more permanent, but working in a sketchbook, you have the freedom to discover and play. You can slow the video down or pause it to follow along with me as I draw mushrooms and a few different leaves. It really comes down to breaking it into shapes and lines. And then once you feel confident, add them to your watercolor paper. So I'm going to give you a tip. When you are creating these fun patterns, you're going to, 1, continuously turn your paper around, and 2, work in sets of 3 and 4 and 5. Let me explain. So I am going to put down 3 of the mushrooms, and then I'm going to put down 5 little mini mushrooms. So I have worked on some flowers, taking these doodles and arranging them into a pattern. I'm going to make sure that everything is spaced out and they're not too close to each other. And then I just continue to turn my page and fill in with the next item. And I just continue on until the negative space in between all of the items starts to fill up. And then I start adding little bits and bobs, little dots, little flowers, just little itty bitty drawings that continuously fill those spaces in. And then is the best part. I get out my watercolor and I begin to color in all of the doodles that I just created. It's just like coloring, except you're coloring with a paintbrush. So grab the different colors that you want to use. Think of groups of 3, 4, and 5, and you will get those colors spread out into a pattern in no time. Once you're finished painting everything in, you're going to let it dry completely. Once it's dry, Use a scoreboard to score the paper and put it into your watercolor junk journal. Before I put it into my junk journal, I am going to go ahead and give the back side a nice wash with color using two different techniques. The first one is laying down some watercolor paint, does not have to be perfect, and then taking some bubble wrap and placing it over the top. Press it down. You can let this dry completely, or you can wait a few minutes and peel it off. It's going to give you circles into your watercolor paper. On the other side, I'm going to add some watercolor again, making sure that it's nice and juicy and has lots of water, and then adding salt on top. The salt will begin to soak up the watercolor. Typically, you just let this dry, but I'm going back over it with some brighter pink color. You don't have to do this, but you do have to let it completely dry, and then you just wipe off the salt and you've got this fun texture. So now I've got two different fun textures on the back, ready to go for my watercolor junk journal. And then I just slide that in. You can slide it in so that you can see the whole thing. Or you can slide it in behind another piece of watercolor paper and you can separate the two pages. It's really up to you what you want to do. So overall, it gave me 4 pages to work with. So fun. Idea number 5, a spring garden cottage. Capture a cozy spring day with a sweet little cottage. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love cottages. Like, you should see my Pinterest board. It is full of cottages. And so I go to my Pinterest board, I find a cottage that I just love, and I make sure that I squeeze in tons of blooming flowers so that it looks like a garden is surrounding the cottage. I want there to be a path, of course, and I may add some baskets of flowers on the house. Don't be afraid to add some of your small, whimsical touches along the way. And now for the bonus idea, bonus stickers. I don't know about you, but I am a book lover and I love to draw within my book review journal. It's a mini journal that is so cute and compact. And I have a reel and a short that flips through it if you are interested. But I have also created several pieces for my Patreons from just this book alone. So when I get into this book, I've got this small space that I can draw, and I can paint right on top of the pages with the watercolor. Often when I do this, I just love what has transpired, and I create either a print from it or a sticker from it. With this one, I have already sent it off to Sticker Mule, and it will be my Patreon award for this month. I can't wait to get the stickers in. When they come in, I will be sure to share them with you. I'll also add some into my Etsy shop. And there you have it. 5 spring-inspired art ideas to help you bloom into your creativity for this season. I just love the spring. I love the newness and the freshness that comes with it. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that you have found it relaxing and fun, and that you are inspired to create some spring art. And remember to continue to discover, play, and grow within your art practice.